Okay, so this is the home screen of the Clevertouch panel. So I have no device connected. This is just the Android system on it. So we talked about this arrow down here, which is your input, your volume, your brightness, things like that. You'll also notice that there's two arrows on either side of the panel. Those are where your menu options are. So as I open these up, here are my menu options. They're identical on either side of the panel. It just depends on where you want to facilitate from, okay? So we're going to walk down these right through here, and then we'll talk about connecting your device, and you'll be experts. You'll be good to go. Done. You'll be ready to go. So the first one I'm going to talk about is whiteboard. Whiteboard is basically this whiteboard, but digital, okay? So now you do have a lot of whiteboard space on here, but a lot of you are using it for calendars and other things like that. So basically I'm giving you back that space digitally, okay? So when I open it up, I'm going to move this little finger guy. It's going to look just like this, just a white, simple whiteboard. In the hamburger over here, you're going to have a couple options. The first option we're going to talk about is background. Background's going to give you the ability to customize that background. So I can do different colored backgrounds. Maybe we'll do this blue. I have some line paper, graph paper. I have different graphs. Ooh. Yeah, that's it. That's all I'm going to show you. There's a line paper. Done, right? So I can customize this background however I want. I can also bring in custom backgrounds. We're probably not going to get to that today. But I can customize this however I want. You do not have to change your background. If you want to keep it white, keep it white. But that's just an option that you have the ability to change under this little hamburger. Now once I change the background to this blue, it's going to stay blue. So it's sticky. So I'd have to go back in and change it back to white or whatever I wanted. So it's going to be sticky. Across the bottom is going to be your toolbar. Whatever is highlighted, that is the tool that you are. So it's showing me that I'm a pen. So as I start to write, which is, this is a bad color, it's blue, but it's multi-touch. So what happens is I can either use my finger or this pen. When I open this up, it's going to show me my different pen colors, okay? So I have 12 stock colors. If I don't like any of those, I have this whole rainbow where I can customize it to whatever I want it to be. Maybe I want it to be this orangey red. So now when I write, my finger color is going to be that. You will notice that there's two pens there. So the first one is going to be my fingertip. The second one is going to be this pen tip. So there's no power to this pen, but there was a big ass to have like a different color pen. So I can't differentiate fingertip, but I could with this pen tip because it's thinner than my finger. So that pen tip is going to write black, while my finger is going to write this orange. But there's no power to it. If I flipped it over, it's the same, almost the same size as my finger. It's going to write orange. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's just surface. So I don't need to, whatever's selected, so I don't need to take this and hit it. So maybe I want this to be this fuchsia color. It'll just be fuchsia. I don't have to touch it with the pen. But the first one is going to be your finger tip color. So maybe I want to turn this back to black. And then this will still be that fuchsia color. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but you obviously, any stylus will work. This one just has a very fine fingertip on it, so that's why it does that different color. Now to erase, intuitively if I put my hand down, I'm an eraser, okay? It would work the same with this little eraser. Again, it's picking up surface. It's saying that this is bigger than my finger. Now, your students might have a rough time using their palm, because generally their palms are sticky. So you might want to use an eraser for them, like, because usually it's like, it's, you know, pen marks everywhere, it's glue, whatever they have on their hands. So, but intuitively if I put my hand down, I'm an eraser. I also do have some erase options. So if I don't want to use my hand, there is that little, looks like an old school eraser. This will allow me to erase something very specific. Since my hand is big, it gives me that ability to erase something small. And then the trash can clears everything. And then undo, redo. So I can bring it back if I decide I want it later. There you go. Any questions about the pens or the erasers? No. Okay. The next one is the A with the underscore. This is going to be your handwriting to text. Okay? So if I open this up, it's going to show me I have 12 stock colors, so I can customize it. If this one's red. So as I write, it's going to turn my handwriting into text. So no matter how big I write it, it always goes that small. So if I use this select tool, I can select it and make it as large as I want. So I can customize it however I want. I just have to be, when I want to use it, I just have to make sure that is highlighted, okay? Next to it is going to be your handwriting or your math tool. So very similar to the handwriting recognition tool. It's just going to do your math equations. So again, I can customize that color. There it goes. Okay. So again, there's my my equation. I'm going to make it bigger so everyone can see it. Same theory. If I just have to be highlighted in it. If I use the question mark, it will answer it.
What?
Cool. There you go. It sounds like that was like it, right? Usually it's the line paper, you guys. Whatever kind of math you want to use for the kids. I saw some math teachers, they put a bunch of math equations up there, and the students were like, okay, you do 1, you do 2, you do 3. And they answered it, like, oh, it's 6. Okay, check it, and go back. Just something different to kind of change it up a little bit.
When you tap it again, it goes back to the question mark?
Yep. That's so exciting, right?
So clever.
It's not smart, it's clever.
I know. I messed it up, she fixed it.
The one right next to the trash can is going to be your shapes tool, okay? So this is great. So 2 and 3 dimensional shapes. Again, I can customize the color. So here's like a Venn diagram. I've gotten really good. I've drawn a lot of Venn diagrams. They're like, wow, you do that great. I was like, well, I've done it 50 times. So again, any shape I want to use. If I want to move anything, again, just remember select, and I can move that wherever I want. I can resize it. So I can move it anywhere in my workspace. You also have 3-dimensional tools, which is great, especially because I feel like it's very hard for students to understand what 3D is. And it's also very hard to draw it, so there's 3-dimensional tools.
Do those color in at all?
No, they don't fill. Fill bucket, no.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, I know. Everyone asks that question. I get asked that question every training. Is there a fill?
Okay.
That's like, yes, no, there's not one. I do always show this because I think this is a great tool. I'm just going to add a page. So right over here is my page sorter. So if I hit this too, it's going to show me all my pages. So very similar to like a Google Slides or a Smart Notebook file. But I'm going to add a page. And I'm going to change this background. I'm going to go real dark. I'm going to go with this dark purple. And I'm going to put my handwriting on here. A good way to use these line tools is this squiggly line. You can write, if I use white. And then you could have the students come up and trace them if you wanted to. So there's just a way to use them. Obviously, you're making your handwriting a lot better than mine, but just on the slide, it's just a couple different ways how to use it. So just to kind of give you an idea, I'm going to go back to my first page. So that's just in the shapes tool, so use those however you'd like. You can customize them. There's line segments. If you're graphing, there's graph paper, nice clean lines. So the one next to the shapes is the hand tool. So the cursor allows me to move anything in the workspace. The hand allows me to move my whole workspace. So I can minimize it, and I can maximize it, and I can move it up, down, left, right. So basically I can move this out of the way, and we can bring in more shapes if we wanted to. I can move this out of the way. So basically it gives me an infinite canvas, and when I open up the hand, it shows me the whole workspace. So I can say, okay, here's where we started, and here's where we ended. So just kind of gives you an idea if you want it, or you can add a page, however you want to use it, but you have an infinite whiteboard on there as well. And then obviously at the very other corner is going to be your page sorter. Any questions about that? Yes?
Can you save it?
We're going to get into saving, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to get into saving. So back to my hamburger over here. We talked about background. You do have save options. So you can save it one of a couple ways. One, I can save it directly to the storage. If I want to save it to the storage, it means I want to reuse it again. So I want to bring it back up the next day. I want to add to it. So when I save it to my storage and I bring it back up on the Clevertouch, because remember, there's no device attached to it. It's completely live. So I can save it to the storage, and I also have the ability to save it to my Google Drive. When I save it to my Google Drive, it's putting it in my Drive account, and then I can open it up on my computer. It's gonna save it as an image file. That would give you the ability to, post on a Google Classroom or email it to a parent. You're giving them that resource, but it's in an image file and it's static. Does that make sense? Okay. So first, we're gonna talk about storage. So if I want to save it to here, by default, it's gonna time and date stamp it. So I would rename it. So rename it anything you want. I'm gonna rename it, we'll just name it test, and hit okay. I'll show you where that saves in just a second. So if I hit save again, you can see it's right there under my storage. But if I go into my cloud account, I'm gonna have to first add it. So I'm gonna hit add, and you can see I can add up to 6 accounts. So for instance, those one of the community spaces, you could have multiple teachers in there if you wanted to save content, if you want to use it as a breakout space. So I'm simply gonna hit add an account. I'm gonna go to my Google Drive. It's gonna prompt me to log in, okay? And then give Google all your information. So it's gonna prompt you to log in. You're gonna do this once. It's sticky, okay? So when I go back, this is the Wi-Fi, or the internet's been a little slow. So you're gonna log in. I know you haven't seen this tool yet, but I'm gonna jump back to here. So once you log in, and I go back to my save, and I go to my Google Drive, my icon will be there. I'm just gonna select that. When I select it, it's gonna open it up, and it's gonna say, where do I wanna save it to? I would recommend making a folder, or something that said Clevertouch, or Whiteboard, whatever you wanted to save, and then it would go into that folder. Does that make sense, the 2 ways to save? You don't have to save anything. Like, you can save whatever you want. But sometimes I'll run into teachers like, I've been saving every note. And I was like, did you save every note before? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, then you don't need it.
Right.
So but it's just if you have that ability too. Instead of like, do not erase or whatever, you have that ability to save and show student work now. So those are the ways to save. Does that make sense?